call this meeting to order. Zach?
Roll call. Mayor Weiss?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry?
Here.
Councilmember Feller?
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez?
Here.
Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Invocation. Would you all please stand and join me for the invocation? Thank you so much. Please join me in bowing our heads. Father, we come before you to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to reside here in the city of Oceanside. We come together tonight as a diverse community, a community of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures, yet one common goal, and that is the betterment of this city. We come together tonight to seek your guidance, wisdom, and discernment during the deliberations that transpire this evening, and in doing so, we lift up Mayor Weiss, Deputy Mayor Lowry, Councilmember Sanchez, Councilmember Kern, and Councilmember Feller. Would you grant them peace and wisdom as they lead our city into a bright and prosperous future? We say all these things in your precious name. Amen. Please remain standing. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by our OPD Explorer.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you so much. All right.
At this time, we'll have a presentation, Education Begins at Home program by Eduardo Becerra.
All right, Ed.
Hello, Councilman. My name is Edward Becerra, and the name of my program is Education Begins in the Home. I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Lowry for inviting me to make a presentation before the council and talk about our program. We've had a lot of ups, a couple downs, and we're trying to move forward. So we started our program in May of 2015, and in June of 2016, we joined an existing 501c3 nonprofit, Latino Literacy Now. What we do, we provide free books to the youth and families of North County, San Diego. We provide 3 free books to every person passing through our booth. Our goal is to help improve the literacy level of the youth of not just Oceanside, but of all North County, San Diego. In 2016, Oceanside Unified cited 2 statistics. 68% of their 3rd graders were not reading at 3rd grade level. The second statistic, 62% of pre-K students were not kindergarten ready, which means that they didn't know their basic numbers, their basic colors, their last name, or the significance of their name. About a year ago, the San Diego Council on Literacy reported that 60% of low-income families do not own a book at home. These are alarming statistics, but the thing about this is that last April I attended a conference at Cal State San Bernardino, and they were talking the exact same numbers. So I would suggest to everybody here that this is not a phenomenon of Oceanside or of San Bernardino. This is a phenomenon across Southern California. I can't address Northern California because I'm not familiar with it, but we definitely need to help improve the literacy level of our children. And that's why we're doing what we're doing in providing free books. And here I put Education Begins at Home is making a difference to all 3 of those statistics in North County, San Diego. We've participated in 175 events since May of 2015. We've given out over 53,000 free books. We serve communities from Oceanside to Valley Center and south to Solana Beach. Our focus presently is on elementary schools and Head Starts because of the 2 statistics that Oceanside Unified declared. In addition, we've donated, and now that number is 8,000 free books to 44 other community organizations that have approached us and asked us for book donations to their organization so that they can give free books away to their specific groups and communities. This is a list of Our volunteers, we are all volunteers, even though we are part of a nonprofit. When we signed up to be part of Latino Literacy Now, Kirk Quiesler, the CEO of Latino Literacy Now, told us they would provide us books. They would provide us our name to be recognized in all of their media. However, there would be no money. So since that day, everything that we've done has been out of pocket. We are all volunteers, including myself. This on the left, the name of all the volunteers that we have. And there's about 10 names there. Presently, there's about 5 active members in our group. Our sponsors, Joe Zuniga, a businessman here in Oceanside, owns Decorative Services, and he has provided me over 50,000 free labels. Because when we receive a book being donated, we put our label on the book so that they know that the book came from us. He's the one that suggested that, and he said, you tell me what you want in your label, and I'll print up the label. Over 50,000 free labels that he's done. A great company here in Oceanside. Mary Bishop, North Coast Church. Once a month, North Coast Church comes to my house, and we sort and label all the books that have been donated to us. They help put these labels on the books. We sort the books into 5 categories: 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 plus, and books in Spanish. We've received tons of books donated from schools, from individuals, from groups. What we don't have is books in English for the 0 to 5 age group, and books in Spanish. When we do have those types of books and we go to an event, those are the first to go every time. So we're always looking especially for those 2 types of book categories, in Spanish and the 0 to 5. I'm presently working with UPS, and I'm hopeful to get a large donation of those books. On the right is our donors, who has provided us with book donations. Gail Wells, Friends of the Oceanside Library. Since day one, Gail Wells has given us 4 to 10 boxes of books on a monthly basis. She's done really great. Ramona Winter, she provided us 3,000 copies of this superb book. It's number 1, bilingual. Number 2, it has a great story talks about family and respect. I've often told people if we had funding, the bilingual books would be the only type of book that we would be handing out, because whether you read English or you read Spanish, you could read it and then see how it's written in the other language. That to me is worth $1,000, and yet she donated 3,000 copies of this book. These books, I have Dwayne Douglas Cohn, who's a kindergarten teacher at Breeze Hill Elementary, part of Vista Unified, read about our program in Oceanside Magazine, in the May-June issue of Oceanside Magazine, and he contacted me and he said, hey, I'd like to donate books. He's donated over 5,000 books of 15 different titles of this book. So that's been awesome. Martin Luther King Middle School here in Oceanside donated over 100 boxes of books to me. Del Dios Middle School in Escondido donated over 100 boxes of books to me. Skyline Elementary in Solana Beach donated over 100 boxes of books to me. So that's why we have a lot of books in the 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 plus age group. We're always short of the 0 to 5 in books in Spanish. Cabrillo National Park Library closed down, and they donated their entire library to us. Mission San Luis Rey Montessori closed down and donated their entire 10,000 book library to our cause. I'm part of Oceanside Promise, which has 3 components: the Oceanside Early Can Collaborative Area Network, which I'm a part of, and the CASE group, the Community Alliance for Youth Success. So I'm part of all 3 of those. I participated and provided all the books at their Love of Literacy campaign that we had at 3 of our parks here in Oceanside, at Balderrama Park, at Crown Heights, and at Libby Lake. At each event, we donated over 400 books, which was a great effort. The last group that I've got here is Palomar Family Counseling. They've got a contract with the San Diego County Office of Education and participate in programs in Oceanside and Vista schools, elementary schools. They have invited us and have asked us to come and participate in some of the meetings that they have with the parents. At these meetings with the parents, we tell people, we named our program this because we truly believe that education begins with them at home. If they wait for their kids to learn at school, they're already behind. So we tell them that reading is a must at home and that they have to read to their children every night. We often tell them that reading is the key to success in school, and school is the key to success in life. And that's why we're providing their children with free books. This is a picture that I took at Libby Lake at the Love of Literacy event at Libby Lake Park. This picture, I tell everybody, this should have made the front page of the UT in the local section. An OPD officer reading to a group of our kids at Libby Lake. This was a fantastic picture. And I actually, earlier on, I had another picture of another officer reading to a group of kids at Balderrama Park. This was the first one. This is the one that I kind of had highlighted on, though. So this was a great picture that really the city needed to push forward, and I'm pushing that forward. So that I've got an email, educationbeginsinthehome@gmail.com. So thank you again. And looking forward, again, we're looking for books for the 0 to 5 age range and books in Spanish. The second problem that we've run into is a storage solution. We presently have a storage in Vista. A family member had been paying that storage as a part of a tax break for him, and he told us that in November that January would be the last month that he'd be able to pay for that storage cost. Similarly, at the same time, we received a letter from the storage unit telling us that the rent was going up from $150 a month to $175 a month. So now, because we're all volunteers, we're trying to raise funds to help pay for the storage unit and to continue to operate on a daily basis. One thing I did leave out on I have received some grants. I received a $1,000 check from KOCT Charities about 6 months ago. I received $500 from my Route 78 Rotary Group, which I'm a part of, and we also received a $250 grant from Rocky Chavez's office. So, but beyond that, we're operating out of pocket, and we're trying to move forward to get books into the hands of our children and improve the literacy level of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't. Mr. Mayor. Don't run away just yet.
Okay.
Councilmember Kern?
I had a chance to talk to Edward on Tuesday morning at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I don't know, can you run back to your beginning of your presentation? There's one real critical statistic. As most people know, I'm a retired school teacher, and there's one statistic here that will lead to success, and that's that first one. If you get a third grader to read at third grade level, they will be successful in college. So that is the most critical statistic on this whole page, is to get kids reading at grade level by third grade. If they do not read at grade level at third grade, they have a tendency to drop out because they're always behind. So that to be successful in school, that is the one thing that everybody needs to focus on, is get your child or any child you know to read at the third grade level. And we talked about that at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So that, I applaud you for doing that, and that is critically important. Thank you.
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Well, Mr. Becerra, I want to thank you for coming. I know I'd seen you at many of the community events I've gone to in the past year and a half, and I was incredibly touched by the fact that you were hauling all those heavy boxes out there of books. And I always hear about hauling boxes of books because when there's a sale at the library, Councilmember Kern is the one who moves them all. And I didn't realize how.
And we have a book sale this weekend, so if you want to come by about 3:30 on Saturday afternoon at 602 Mission Avenue, you can have all the children's books that you can carry.
KOLs is a great supporter of our cause.
Great. So I'm really pleased that you came today and let the community know about this. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. Thank you. I've known Ed for several years now, and Ed and the this wonderful organization of volunteers has been to practically every community event, in doing our outreach to our youth in Crown Heights, in Libby Lake, in East Side, and everything. Ed, thank you so much for all that you've done. This has been obviously a labor of love with you, your family, and all these volunteers. So, and I know I see a few volunteers back behind you. Could you stand up, all those, everyone that came on your behalf,
and
including your wife?
Standing up in the back is Joe Zuniga. I mentioned him, Decorative Services.
Could you all stand? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to working with you again on Noche Mexicana and
Absolutely.
the Latino Book and Family Festival.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Closed session report.
Thank you. The City Council met earlier this afternoon in closed session to discuss the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Police Management Association. There is no reportable action under the Brown Act under that item. There was no meeting on item 2 on the closed session agenda.
Next, we have consent calendar, items 3 through 11.
Move approval.
Second.
No public. Please vote. Motion approved, 5-0. Next, we have item number 12. Item number 12 is approval of Amendment 3 in the amount of $199,949 to the Professional Services Agreement with Environmental Science Associates for a revised contract amount of $748,644 to complete additional tasks outside of the original scope of work and to address comments received on the draft environmental impact report, with an additional contingency to ensure completion of the Oceanside Coast Highway Corridor study and authorization for the city engineer to execute the amendment.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm John Amberson with the Public Works Department. The item I'm bringing you tonight is a staff request for Council to consider approval of Amendment Number 3 for the Coast Highway Corridor study. The Coast Highway Corridor study, if you recall, is looking at alternatives to reduce Coast Highway down from 4 lanes and along the entire 3.5 mile stretch down to 2 lanes with multimodal enhancements, roundabouts, and other safety improvements. This in conjunction with some land use enhancements and an incentive district zoning overlay between Seagaze and Eaton Street. The staff recommendation is for Council to consider approval of Amendment 3 in the amount of $199,949 to address additional comments that the project team received as part of the comments on the draft EIR. So the Amendment 3 will cover the costs associated with that expanded effort. The work effort that Amendment 3 will cover is the additional traffic analyses that will involve analysis of Interstate 5, the on and off ramps, and the related interchanges. There will be air quality and noise and other technical studies that will need to be revised to account for that expanded traffic analysis. We're also going to add an additional alternative that stops the road diet at Moore Street, and Coast Highway will continue as 4 lanes south of Moore Street. We're also going to stop the incentive district zoning at Moore Street. So there will be no zoning incentive district south of Moore Street as part of that alternative. In addition, we'll be expanding the parking assessment for each of the alternatives. The draft EIR just looked at the parking supply as part of the preferred project, but we'll be looking at the parking supply for all the alternatives. This will also cover the costs associated with the preparation, review, and then the recirculation of the revised draft EIR, and then the subsequent response to comments. The project status going forward, as I mentioned earlier, we did have the public review period this summer. We received about 200 comments. We expect to finalize all the traffic analyses and technical studies by June of this year. This will be followed by a recirculation of the revised sections of the draft EIR in July. And then we expect to have a final publication of the revised EIR in October. And this will be followed closely by presentations to both Planning Commission and the City Council. In closing, staff recommends that the City Council approve Amendment 3 in the amount of $199,949 to the professional services agreement with Environmental Science Associates for a total revised contract amount of $748,644 to complete the additional tasks outside of the original scope of work to address comments received on the draft environmental impact report. That concludes staff's presentation.
There's no public on this item. You want to speak on this item? Okay. Cindy Rocco.
No.
This is a general hearing. This isn't a public hearing.
My apologies for not being ready. I really thought it was time certain. Okay. Honorable Mayor and Council, I'm here to talk about the revised contract amount with Environmental Services, Science Associates related to the Coast Highway Vision Plan. Right now, the revised amount is about $750,000, with the original contract size at $550,000, and that's a 36% in the increase in the contract. The 200 increase in additional money is to include, tasks outside original scope and to address comments received on the draft DIR. This should have been a task included in the original scope of the contract, because everybody reviews the draft DIR in any project. A few years ago, or a couple years ago, I attended a workshop, and I also put in writing the following feedback as a comment. And it had to do with asking the consultant about, I'm so sorry. Asking the consultant if they took into consideration the 5 and 78 interchange and the I-5 widening. He had to go check with the consultant, and he said, no, it's as is. So again, I gave feedback that that would be something that would need to be studied as an impact. So since it was that was already previous comments that were given, and I know also in the draft DIR, this was and added to the scope is to include studying the traffic impacts of those particular projects. So I feel like, it should have been included in the original scope, because it was something that was presented both verbally to a consultant and in writing. And I just think that this is just an example of a blatant waste of our money. And I don't know what percentage it is of the $200,000 to study this, but it should have been in the original scope. And I just think it's an opportunity to control costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rocco. No further.
Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. I am only going to support this because it does review the 5 effect on this. I think we as well should have done that in the beginning with, as Ms. Rocco just said, that it probably should have been a part of the initial agreement. I'm also, I went down to Bird Rock, the famous Bird Rock, And I've seen now that that road is not a thoroughfare for anything in that general area. It's a nice, great road. I love the idea that you can do that, but it's got two housing on either end of the street. And what I'm getting further from taking away a southbound lane on I-5 from Coast Highway, because that's literally what it is right now. And I don't know that I'm going to be supporting the entire project when it gets to that point. But I think we need to study I-5. Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Were you making a motion? No? Okay. I actually think Ms. Rocco had some very good points that she made. To me, what has happened is this project has grown and grown and grown from what I thought we had approved back in the day. I hear 5,000 new residential units, pure residential on Coast Highway, taking away what I feel very strongly about is our commercial uses. Talking about increasing residential on Coast Highway that probably couldn't even handle that kind of traffic, and the money that has been used to study these new kind of ideas has been money that should have been originally spent based on what we as a community, as a council, said, okay, this is worth studying. But you're almost, Cindy said 36% or 38%. It feels like it's almost 50%. And I feel that the project has grown much, much beyond what we ever imagined. So I know there's a lot of concerns in the community about what we're all talking about now, especially with staff and the impression and the sense that out there, staff's not really listening to the comments by the community. So I'm having a very difficult time saying yes to $200,000 more when the original was $500,000. I didn't see enough justification here in the staff report, so I'm going to actually respectfully disagree with this request. I don't feel there's enough justification. I feel that we're going in a direction that is just not supportable in terms of our roads and in terms of the community. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Thank you. How would you possibly know what the community members wanted as part of this plan if you didn't ask them what they wanted? That's my question. I suppose you could guess. You could guess what the community members wanted.
Well, we had a steering committee that was comprised of residents and business owners all up and down the corridor, and this in conjunction with a pretty robust outreach process that occurred within the first 2 years of the study. And then we received over 200 comments from a combined group of residents and various government agencies. And this request for approval of Amendment 3 is to help address those comments, which were pretty important to us and we felt that needed to be addressed. But that effort is an additional effort above and beyond the current scope. Was not anticipated.
So if the community members had comments and we didn't have an avenue to record those comments and to put them into the study, then wouldn't the residents feel left out of the process, and what we're trying to do is include them in the process?
You could say that.
So I think that if we come in with the project that we've started and the residents need to know that we want to hear from them, that we need to be prepared as a city to pay for what they're asking us to do, because we can't get this done for free. So I'm going to support this, and I want to make a motion that we do that. So
I'll second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make sure that I'm very clear on why I'm opposing this. I believe staff went above and beyond what the community wanted in the first place, and regardless of these, this committee that was put together by staff, which has never been done in the past ever. Committees are usually done by the mayor coming forward and making appointments, and in this case, I questioned that at the very beginning, how we could be having committees created at the staff level and, having no input into that, making, not being able to make sure that we had a good representative group of people from the community. So, I'm sorry. I just feel that this has just been a runaway kind of situation. It was very clear from the very beginning where people stood. I feel that this is really an artificial expansion of money needed when we didn't need to have it in the first place. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. I always want to hear from the community. I've been hearing from the community from day one, and their disappointments with their ability to make any impact on staff and what staff was doing all along. How long has this been going on? For a couple years now? And I don't think the community feels it's being listened to. So regardless of what happens with responding to the EIRs, that's just part of a process, but whether or not the staff is actually going to hear the community is something completely different. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Thank you. So I want to congratulate our staff for bringing this forward rather than just throwing the comments of the public into the garbage. I think if staff refuses to bring things forward because they're afraid of getting a yes or a no from the City Council, that's inappropriate. So I want to congratulate you that, yes, we've already invested 2 years, a whole lot of public input, a lot of staff time, and a lot of money, but we have to finish this and get it moving forward, or just throw it in the garbage. So I want to congratulate you for listening to the comments of the community, continuing to bring those forward to us as a City Council, where we have the decision to either finish the project that we've already invested $500,000 in, or just stop it now and forget all about it. So thank you for coming with this presentation tonight. Thank you.
Councilman Feller.
Thank you. You did listen to the public by changing everything south of Morse. That was exactly what you did. So, but that wasn't an option in the EIR. So that's what we're talking about here, besides the addition of looking at 5. So thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
Go to item 15.
Yes. Item number 15 is advance written request by Kathy Nichol.
Is it that cold outside, Kathy? The ear thing? And okay, I can't read it from here. Thank you. Maybe you could put your head on the table so we could see what it says. Oh, here you go.
You'll have to ask Eileen or Leslie. Before I start, Honorable Mayor, attendees, and viewing public, my name is Kathy Nichol from Main Street, Oceanside. I did want to bring up one thing before I talk about the events for this week. The Oceanside Chamber does a enlisted recognition reception every February, and they're doing it again on February 22nd at the Veterans Association of North County. So if you'd like to participate, sponsor, or provide a donation for that, that would be great. Please contact Christy or Scott at the Chamber. So I'm wearing my Oceanside Valentine's Week hat. It actually starts tomorrow with our Sweetheart Sunset Market. And then on the 10th, the 9th, 10th and 11th, we have our Ferris wheel down at the pier from noon until sunset. On Saturday, the day starts with a family bike ride from the pier out to Alex Skate Park and back in the morning. There is also a movie that evening in the amphitheater at the pier, carriage rides. What did I forget? The Oceanside Museum of Art will be doing a Argentine tango at the museum that evening. And then there are specials with our Oceanside Harbor Valentine's Week Sunset Cruises and a dance at the Elks Lodge on the 16th. All that information is on our website at mainstreetoceanside.com, or you can also just type in Oceanside Valentine's Week, and the Visitor Center has set up a website. After Valentine's, Main Street will be moving forward with their Oceanside Mural Initiative program, Share Your Cup fundraising campaign. They are partnering with the Downtown Coffee and Tea Merchants for a Share Your Cup fundraising campaign, encouraging the community to patronize a partner local coffee and tea shop each Monday between February 26th and April 2nd, as proceeds will benefit the next mural in the downtown. So every Monday we'll have a different business that will be providing part of their proceeds to our Oceanside Mural Initiative to beautify our downtown. So please check that out on our social media or our website, mainstreetoceanside.com. Thank you. Hope to see you in the downtown.
Would you like to go to item number 16? Yes, we have 9 speakers on this item. I'll call you up so far 2 at a time. The way the podium works, green means go, yellow means you have 1 minute left, and then red means your time has expired. So our first 2 speakers on items off the agenda are Kenneth Deere, followed by Dave Newman.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, my name is Kenneth Durr. I represent the American Legion Riders of Oceanside. Thank you for allowing us here today to introduce you to the American Legion Riders. We're all veterans and members of the American Legion. In fact, you may be familiar with a few of our members: City Councilman Jerry Kern, Oceanside Fire Chief Rick Robinson, Assembly Member Rocky Chavez, and Congressman Darrell Lisa. Our purpose of appearing before you is to provide you with some information about the American Legion Riders. We're not a club or associate with groups that call themselves clubs. We are all veterans from each branch of the military, men and women. We belong to the American Legion first, and also ride motorcycles. We participate in parades like the Independence Day Parade here in Oceanside. We man the booth for the Legion at Harbor Days. We're a nonprofit, so all funds that we raise go to support veterans organizations like Homes for Our Troops, Toys for Tots, Wreaths Across America, Wounded Warrior, and the Wounded Warrior Foundation. We also do escorts to Miramar and Riverside National Cemeteries. As you can see, we wear a vest, and our vest has our chapter numbers on it. Our vest designated as veterans or sons of the American Legion or auxiliary members. We have strict guidelines on what we can wear on our vest so that we do not look like a motorcycle club. The riders here this evening, there's a few of us from Escondido, from Chula Vista and Encinitas, and most of us are from Oceanside. And we are here to tell you how excited we are about an event that we will be holding on April 20th, 21st, and 22nd here at the Junior Sayal Recreation Center. It's our 12th annual American Legion Rider Department of California Convention, where we elect new officers for year 2018-19. We change any bylaws and or adopt new resolutions. Basically, we will be meeting for the majority of the 2 days. There will be riders attending from throughout California. We expect over 300 representatives, so there will be many bikes in town that particular weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deere.
Councilmember Feller.
I just had a question. Are you going to, you've announced it here, but is there notification and so that somehow the city can spread the word about you? I mean, somehow, some way.
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, when you're doing an event, is it just going to be for you and nobody else, or?
Yes.
Are you, okay, so you're not expecting to have some dinner or some fundraising kind of thing?
No.
Okay.
We'll have our meeting on the first part of the meeting, or the Legion, or the convention rather, will be Saturday, and we will be having lunch just for those attending.
Gotcha.
And then Saturday night we will be having a dinner just for those attending.
Okay, that I just wanted to make sure that.
Right. Yeah. There won't be any other people except the American Legion Riders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are you going to get a motorcycle, Jack? Is that what you're going to do?
Actually, I'm hoping to see Rick on one.
Oh, we've been trying to get him on one, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dave Newman, Fire Mountain. During the last council meeting, a resident spoke about pesticide use in marijuana grown in Northern California and pointed to an article from UC Davis and Berkeley, citing how the pesticides and other contaminants are polluting the waterways and soil, thereby killing the local wildlife. They added that these contaminants must be working their way into humans. I would like to take a moment and bring up an article from the San Diego Union Tribune just last week that mentioned two areas of Oceanside account for nearly 60% of all pesticides released in San Diego County, according to the California Environmental Protection Agency, as you can see here. According to Cal EnviroScreen 3.0, the amount of pesticides released in the top areas of Oceanside, Vista, and Carlsbad is higher than 90% of all census tracts in California. In 2012, a case study found that occupational exposure to pesticides increased the risk of aggravated prostate cancer. Research shows prenatal exposure to common pesticide use on crops, animals, and buildings is associated with brain structure abnormalities in children. So while I understand the prohibitionists' need to vilify marijuana, it seems that marijuana cultivation is not the only crop that has the potential to contaminate the soil, and not the only crop that's potentially hazardous to humans, but most certainly the only crop that we won't be feeding to our children. Currently, many operators provide test results with the products they offer, and those that do not are no different than those selling dime bags in our neighborhoods. The black market currently provides plenty of products delivered right to your door without testing, checking of ID, or adhering to regulations in any way. If a regulated market will help with at least some of these issues, then I see no reason to continue and support prohibition and the black market on the streets of our city. I might also suggest that by allowing indoor cultivation, you are empowering the farmer with full control of their entire environment, thereby blocking pests and mold spores, thereby eliminating the need for pesticides or fungicide use in cannabis production. Thank you for your time.
Our next two speakers are Bobby Petty and Michael Odegaard.
right?
Okay.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Bobby Petty. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration, Office of Disaster Assistance. For those who don't know, the Small Business Administration works with FEMA, but what we do is we give low interest rate loans to homeowners, businesses, and renters who are affected by disasters such as what I'm speaking about today, which is the Lilac Fire. There are some people who may have relocated from the Bonsall area and elsewhere from the Lilac Fire to your city, so I'm trying to use this as an opportunity to get a public service announcement out. And this goes for any disaster, not just a fire, but flood, earthquake, or whatever. If you want assistance from the federal government, the way the Congress set it up in 1988 is to first register with FEMA. FEMA will give you an initial $500 or so for emergency need, but the way Congress set it up was the next step is to apply for a Small Business Administration loan. They want the money to actually come in the form of a loan instead of a grant, if at all possible. Once you apply for a loan, you can then get referred back to FEMA for additional assistance, but that's only once you apply. If you don't, the federal government thinks that you've already been, your needs have been satisfied through insurance or any other financial means. So I guess that's the general word I'm trying to get out to people, is that if they haven't applied with the Small Business Administration, they need to if they want to get additional assistance. They can get up to $200,000 for their house, in the form of a loan, and up to $40,000 for their personal property. Renters, too, can also get money from the Small Business Administration, up to $40,000. Businesses can get money as much as $2 million for the physical damage as well as economic injury disaster that they may have incurred from the Lilac Fire. For additional information, people can contact FEMA. FEMA has pulled out of the Bonsall area for now. So the number for anyone who needs assistance, or if you know of anyone who needs assistance, is 1-800-621-3362. They can also go to disasterassistance.gov, and then to get assistance from the Small Business Administration, they can go to the Bonsall Community Center. They can also go to 1-800-659-2955, or they can also go to disasterassistance.gov. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Bill Weigel, followed by Kristen Johnson.
Hello to everyone today. You may remember me working with you a little bit through the San Onofre issue. Happy New Year. We're into 2018. I do want to provide everyone here with an update. Some people are not familiar with the topic. San Onofre, Southern California Edison, nuclear spent fuel, going in the beach, 108 feet from the water, Cliff's Notes. Anyone that wants to know more about it, publicwatchdogs.org. As a local business owner, we obviously take this one very near and dear to our hearts. We have several law enforcement officers that are customers of ours. We've talked candidly with them about the topic. The cans are going into the ground, and we did work at one point with the council to pass a resolution to take a firm approach to stop this dead in its tracks. That did not happen. Esther Sanchez made a great comment when that process fell well short of what the intended goal was, with that it was gutted of its intended purpose. And here we are with the waste going in completely unscathed, nothing changed. Another concern I have as a local business owner is we recently experienced a break-in at our business. We've also had a problem with homelessness, which is also near and dear to our hearts because we have a community breakfast every month for the community, including the homeless. But the epidemic speaks for itself. I have no idea where the council stands on any of these issues, but what I am most concerned with is the continuing disappointment that people I know in this community are experiencing on almost every level when you peer back, look behind the curtain at the failure, one after another, of our elected representatives to truly protect us. And the obligation for protection due to the allegiance of the public is the whole basis for this process we call government. And when the failings continue, you're leaving and painting us into a corner where we have almost no other choice than to just look up and say, what are we doing? What makes this legitimate when the people that create the rules do not follow the rules? We have a hypocrisy crisis as well as a homeless crisis in almost every town. It's not exclusive to Oceanside, but again, as a person that works with law enforcement, as customers, has candid conversations where they look at me, and I'm not going to name names because they don't want me to tell anyone who they are, because they know the bureaucracy is the problem, and they say, and we're part of the problem as well at times, because we're stuck in the same situation with the political shortcomings that lead to these one after another problems. And I've been told candidly by public servants that Oceanside is a safe haven for homeless because we get funding out of the city to keep the 2 homeless shelters, which I volunteered at, and I think they're good, but we're not helping these people. We have mental health issues and substance abuse issues. Again, my parking lot gets used as a bathroom. I have to clean up human waste. That's a biohazard, and that's because no one's doing anything about this. I watched San Onofre fall on its nose when no one wanted to truly step up to the corporate fascism that was demonstrated from top to bottom, federal, state, and local levels. And just sit and do the same thing over and over. Folks, I'm one of many few people that actually wants to come here and speak to you, but it's because I'm speaking from the heart, and the corruption has to stop. You're losing any legitimate claim to say that this process is in any way valid. So as a concerned citizen with public servants, police officers that speak to me candidly, this has to change. And I want to come back in a month and ask some other hard questions, but in the meantime, talk to any council members that are interested in doing something legitimate to stop the homeless crisis that's leading to public health threats. We have kids, I serve pancakes in the same place.
Your time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just one thing about the San Onofre thing. Today I've been named the secretary of the community engagement panel for decommissioning of San Onofre. So basically the third in command of that panel. So if anybody has any questions about San Onofre, please contact my office.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Johnson, and I live in Oceanside, right across from the Vine Street, what used to be what we used as a community park. Oh, and I wanted to say first, congratulations on being appointed, Mayor Weiss.
Thank you.
It's good to have you on board. For 35 years, the park empty land on Vine Street has been used by the residents of the trailer park where I live to fly airplanes, film movies, walk dogs, play baseball, frisbee, and now it's being taken over by a 58 resident condo. The land was changed from commercial recreation to whatever you can put a condo on. Lots of us put in comments, and I think maybe our comments were thrown into the garbage because planning commission or the planners didn't go along with what the residents wanted, and neither did the city council. I was very shocked when I found out that one of the councilmen that voted on it, in fact, he's my district councilman, used to work or had some kind of connection with the family that owns the trust that owns the land. I was a federal employee for 30 years. I worked in contracting and construction. And it was drummed into us that employees shall endeavor to avoid any actions creating the appearance that they have violated ethical standards in a reasonable person's view. Not only violating standards, but the appearance was very important. I couldn't work on any contract if even a friend of mine worked for the company. Public service is a public trust. There are no allowable conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Myrta Tovar, followed by Dennis Martinick.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Myrta Tovar. I live at 615 Vine Street, and I want to talk about two things that directly impact the residents on Vine Street and the surrounding neighborhoods. Traffic is already extremely heavy down Vine Street. If you didn't know any better, you'd think that you were on the on-ramp to Interstate 5. When you going down the hill or going up the hill, the turning distance into any of those complexes is very short. It's an accident waiting to happen. I know because I experience this every day when I leave my complex and when I return home. The speed limits are not adhered to, even though they're clearly posted 15 to 20 miles per hour. And the parking is extremely limited. I live in a one-bedroom condo conversion, and there is space for one parking space on my complex. However, that doesn't allow for visitors or anything because there is no parking to access unless you're down by the Best Western at the bottom of the hill or at the top of the hill as Vine curves. I can only imagine how that is going to impact Vine Street in the future with these new condos and other proposed developments. The second thing that I want to talk about is the park and how that impacts our community. Our youth need recreational areas where they can gather. I work at St. Mary Star, the C School, as the extended care supervisor, and I can't tell you how many times I turn away families and young people who want to come and throw basketballs, who want to use our soccer field to play a game, to access our playground. Of course, that's not allowable because we're in operation. We are servicing the community with childcare needs. So that property is not accessible to our community. And then you have Ditmar, which is our local public school. And those are off limits as well because they are gated. However, on any given day, you can go over there and see people hop the fence and go dog walking and use the public facility at the school, you know, for the open space. This is the only open space that we have. Maybe it is a dirt lot, true, but it is a dirt lot that has been used by the public at large. So I want you to consider that when you propose any kind of projects because it does impact our community. You need to ask us, the people that live there.
Thank you, Ms. Tovar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Dennis Martinek, 1537 Sleeping Indian Road in the agricultural section of Oceanside. I'm a retired professor of business economics and urban planning and supporter of the SOAR initiative that's being circulated throughout the city. There have been some misrepresentations being made about the SOAR initiative's potential impacts, and I wanted to try to clarify that today. The SOAR initiative's main thing is it gives Oceanside voters the right to vote. That's the key of the whole initiative. It doesn't change the general plan, it doesn't change the zoning ordinance, but it does give residents of Oceanside, citizens of Oceanside, the right to vote in two key areas. Open space, which includes parks, bodies of water, the river trail, also recreation areas like golf courses, and agricultural areas. So if there were proposed changes for those two categories of land use, they would have to go before the voters for approval. That doesn't mean that changes couldn't be made within the existing land uses. One misrepresentation is that a person couldn't do a processing plant for their agricultural items, or they couldn't build something that's an agricultural facility. That's silly. That has nothing to do with what SOAR is about. A farmer, myself, could build existing facilities or promote and build new facilities so long as it's consistent with agricultural use. In terms of providing infrastructure needed in parks, for example, again, that's consistent with our recreational uses in our open space category of our general plan. So it's misrepresentation to say that this is going to have some negative impact on uses which are presently allowed in our general plan, because our general plan does allow those. Also allows, I live across the street from a winery. Wine tasting is very similar to that. Well, it's used, it's allowed. Coffee tasting is another one. You've heard that thrown out, and that's something that we can expect in agritourism that's being promoted by SOAR. It preserves farmland, parks, and open space, maintains the Oceanside's existing general plan. It also minimizes sprawl, reduces greenhouse gases, and reduces infrastructure costs by promoting smart growth, growth along the urban corridors, growth where we already have existing infrastructure. It's adopted city policy and it's adopted county policy. So again, I hope that clarifies some of the issues. It does also promote agritourism, and if there are any other questions, we're always ready to address those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we now go to the public hearings, and we'll hear the rest of the public comments afterwards?
This public hearing item number 13 is adoption of a resolution approving a 2-year time extension for a previously approved development plan and conditional use permits for the construction of a mixed-use development consisting of 90 live-work units, 124 hotel rooms, and 8,357 square feet of commercial located on a city block bounded by Mission Avenue on the north, Seagaze Drive on the south, Horn Street on the east, and Clementine Street on the west. Belvedere time extension applicant, Amity Group.
Open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
We've heard this many times. It's a repeat of just what we've already approved, so thank you.
Staff.
Staff, the applicant, and members of the public.
No contact with respect to the request for extension, but certainly I was involved with the community outreach on this project, as well as the council meetings on this.
Yeah, we, like Councilmember Feller said, this actually got approved before I was on the council, and I think this is the third time we've heard this since I've been on the council. So I'm pretty versed in what's going on here, and my contact's just been with staff.
All materials have been provided to the council.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Stephanie Cervantes, and I will be presenting the Belvedere time extension. For this project, staff and the Downtown Advisory Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving a 2-year time extension for the previously approved development plan and conditional use permits for the construction of the mixed-use development consisting of 90 live-work units, 124 hotel rooms, and approximately 8,000 square feet of commercial space. As stated, the site is located on a city block bounded by Mission on the north, Seagaze on the south, Horn on the east, and Clementine on the west. The surrounding land uses include a shopping center to the north, residential to the south, office to the west, and Oceanside High School to the east. The site has had previously approved entitlements in 2015, a zone change, tentative map, development plan, variance, and 2 conditional use permits were allowed for a mixed-use project consisting of 66 condos, 51 live-work units, and approximately 26,000 square feet of commercial space. In 2008, there was an amendment to that development plan, which allowed 65 condos, 28 live-work units, and 8,000 square feet of commercial space. Those entitlements expired in 2009. The time extension request is for the development plan and 3 conditional use permits approved by the CDC on October 17, 2012. That project allowed 124 hotel rooms and 90 live-work units and approximately 8,000 square feet of commercial space. In 2014, a substantial conformity application was submitted and approved to allow the conversion of the top story of a building to non-habitable space. 8 proposed units were redistributed throughout the building. A 2-foot shift west of the building footprint to comply with right-of-way easements, the removal of second-story balconies along Horn Street, the removal of condition 115A from the original approval, which required the project to dedicate one level of parking for residential only, and added additional transportation services not previously approved or required, such as shuttle services, shared car service, bike parking spaces, and bike sharing services. The substantial conformity did not request or approve any changes to unit count or parking space count. The request is for a 2-year time extension, which, if approved, will expire on October 17, 2019. There are no proposed changes to the project at this time. The project remains consistent with the city's general plan and zoning ordinance. The project is currently under review for grading, erosion control, building permits, and landscape plans have been deemed complete. As proposed, the project would be eligible for one additional 1-year time extension. Here is a rendering of the proposed building facing towards the Pacific Ocean. This is the same side at a slightly different angle. The request for the time extension went to the Downtown Advisory Committee on December of 2017. DAC recommended approval with a 4-to-1 vote. DAC had a concern regarding a 2-year versus a 1-year request. At this time, staff has determined that the project is consistent with the zoning ordinance. The proposed development will enhance the property and surrounding neighborhood. The proposed and approved uses would provide additional housing and commercial opportunities in the area, and the time extension would allow the property owner additional time to complete the project. Staff and the Downtown Advisory Committee recommend approval of the 2-year time extension. I will be happy to answer any questions from the council.
Thank you. At this time, the applicant has time if they wish to speak.
I have no comment. It was very well presented. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll go to the public then. Great. So this is a public hearing item. We do have one member of the public who turned in a form, so I'll have her go first. Joan Bachman.
Hello, Joan Bachman. I live downtown. I was not on the DAC vote. I am on the DAC, but I was not part of that vote due to a previous commitment, and I got there right after the vote. I would have voted no, and I have some reasons for that. Seems loud. I think this is not aging well. It's kind of a 1990s Miami thing that really isn't the best building. It also has a pretty ugly streetscape. There are sheer walls on it. There's a condition number 60 that must be removed. It says that the sidewalk must be contiguous to the curb, which is not the urban development pattern, and is actually really against all the charm we're trying to create downtown. So that condition absolutely needs to be removed. I wouldn't hire a contractor that needed 6 chances, and maybe 7. This would be the 6th, and then there's another one. We rebuilt a house, remodeled a house on Horn Street, and our contractor, the grandmother died, the aunt died, the brother went to jail, his wife left him, he went bankrupt, and about the time he was coming up with his final excuse, we weren't believing him anymore. We did get our house done. We ended up managing him very closely to make that happen. But this is too big of a building and too important of a place to have somebody who just hasn't been able to do it, and to do it with an old design. I'm not opposed to the use at this. I'm not opposed to the zoning. I think we do need to concentrate our density, concentrate things as I've talked to some of you about, and that's a very key part of downtown development. But I think this building is an old design. They've had their chances. I wouldn't hire them, given this record. And finally, my final point is about the school. And I think you might remember that 9/11 was called a failure of imagination. We now have seen what happened in Las Vegas. And I think we need to take a step back and relook at this site next to our school. So I'm urging you to vote no on this extension. It has been just approved at each step, but I think we have some very valid reasons. The design's old. We have a safety concern, and they just have not performed. And I'm sure they have plans in. I don't know if they're good plans. We don't know that. So I would say it's time to start over and do something better on this site. And I would not be opposed to something of this magnitude. Thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Any other members of the public who wish to speak on this specific item may come forward at this time. Mayor, I see none. You can close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Jeff, would you explain to me how many years this has already been on the, block?
Deputy Mayor and council members, I'll have Stephanie pull up the slide that shows the original approval. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about the original entitlement that expired or this second go around.
Let's go for how many years it's been approved. The city approved it in 2005. Different project. Okay.
2012 is the current project. So there was another entitlement that was approved earlier on, but that expired, and then they came back in with an entirely new application.
And starting all over.
And that was approved in 2012.
Is this the same company each time? The two different proposals?
I don't know. The applicant's here, and they could address that.
So we have given it, we've already given a couple of extensions, and we have this one and then one other one that we can do.
It was subject to the state extensions that were automatic during the recession, and so now they're asking for a 2-year extension. Our zoning ordinance actually allows 3 years, and so they could come in they're eligible for 1 additional year.
Okay.
Per our zoning ordinance.
So just regarding the comment that the resident made, I'm concerned about the safety of the students at the high school campus, and I'm wondering if there are windows and balconies and all sorts of ways that people can see what's going on in the school that's directly across the street from this. That would be the side facing Horn Street. Windows, balconies.
I would ask that the applicant come to the podium and then explain the design and their response to that concern.
Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is John Kolasevich. I represent the owners of the property, and I'm also the general contractor that will be building it. To answer your first question, there was an original design, but it wasn't ours. Ours came in 2012, as we explained. And it dramatically changed. As we said, we feel it's a far better project than the one that was previously submitted. I have the elevations here for the plan. I have to take a second to look at it to see what is on the east side. The east side does have windows and balconies. I'd be happy to share it with everyone, but it is a typical apartment building.
Oh, you can put it on that platform right there that Mr. Knott will assist you with. Thank you. Oh. Six floors above street?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there more?
Councilmember Kern.
Are you done? Yeah, I'm going to move approval for this extension. The idea that, we've been, obviously this started before I was even on the council. I'll be ending my 12th year here in December, and this actually started before I did, and it won't start till after I leave probably. So, but my understanding, you guys are ready to pull your building permits as soon as you get your financing together.
That is correct. I'm shovel ready.
And so it is a shovel-ready project. My concern is, are you going to be back here in another 3 years asking for another extension? But we are allowed 3 and you're only asking for 2. So the likelihood of you getting started in the next 2 years is percentage-wise 50-50?
I have it on my radar for August this year, but that is my plan. So I'm in active financing with various banks in U.S. as well as offshore.
Okay, good, because I think it's too late to start over. We've committed to this project, and obviously the recession hit, things changed.
That did have a big factor.
Obviously, and if you look at our Pier Hotel project, that's been kind of lagging because they're trying to get their financing together too. So the idea that you're not alone in the financing business here, especially for hotels, which I know are very difficult to finance. So I'm going to move approval for the extension, and hopefully you get started in August. I'd like to see that going. Thank you.
I'll second.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Bachman, for coming to speak, because I was wondering, you were one of the biggest proponents of this project way back in the day, 2005. I had concerns about the height at that time, but it seemed like, at the time, it seemed to make sense. When this project came back to us with a new kind of some new ideas, I certainly like the idea of hotel rooms rather than the live-work lofts. That really bothered me, the live-work lofts, because they didn't seem to be working at the time in Oceanside. And in fact, they still have had trouble selling. We have the wonderful thing that we have hindsight, right? So we know what has worked in Oceanside, what things haven't worked, and live-work lofts just seem to be falling on their face. I have some concerns about safety. I don't know if at the time that this was requested, whether there was even an opportunity to look at perhaps some of the changes. Certainly they did that in 2012. So I would think that there would be a potential for looking at possible changes going forward, especially if there's a very big possibility that this is going to be done within 3 years versus 2. So I'm not satisfied that we ought to, this is not an automatic. They've received the benefit of the state extensions, and so this is something that, looking now at this project, it does seem a bit outdated, and it doesn't seem to, this came to us before all the changes on Mission Avenue, and it seems like, the street part of it, streetscape, is just not working. It's just, there's no flow. And initially, what got me to like the project was the amount of commercial. That I really liked. In the second rendering, we lost commercial for the hotel. But again, not completely happy with the project. So now I think we have perhaps another opportunity to look at this. Certainly, it is our decision whether we grant the extension or not. And for me, I think that we ought to deny it. Thank you.
I just have a couple minor comments and directed at Mr. Hunt and the applicant. If you're that close, I'm supportive of the time extension, but I would like for you to get with staff and look at some of the streetscape designs as they relate to what has now been completed for Mission Avenue to see if there's an opportunity to make that look a little better and make it more inviting to the public. But other than that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2, Sanchez, Lowry, no. Next item is item number 14, Item number 14 is adoption of a resolution approving development plan, conditional use permit, and regular coastal permit for the establishment and operation of a 10-room boutique hotel, and to allow minor facade and tenant improvements to the building located at 406 and 408 Pierview Way, located within the Townsite Neighborhood Planning Area, which is not within the appeal jurisdiction of the California Coastal Commission. Pierview Boutique Hotel, applicant Thomas Aldrich.
Open the public hearing. Disclosures.
I'll start. I've been in the building. I know the family. I am cleared to vote on this project. I don't have to recuse myself because it's an Aldrich family. I think we've heard nothing but good things about this, and so I've heard a lot of good public comments about this, and I really appreciate the effort that's going in downtown. Thank you.
Well, I walked through the building. It was a mess, and I've seen a lot of progress on the outside, but I haven't seen it on the inside, but I'll see it again this week, and I appreciate that members of the community are willing to bring in millions of dollars to take an old building that's clearly an historic building and make it into something that's very contemporary. So I spoke with staff, neighbors, guests from out of town, you name it, and the applicant. So thank you.
Staff and the applicant.
I met with the applicant. I'm very familiar with the site.
I met with the applicant and actually toured the site before they started the work on it, so thank you.
Yeah, all material has been provided to the council.
All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Weiss, Deputy Mayor Lowry, distinguished council members. I'm Richard Greenbauer in the Planning Division, Principal Planner, and here tonight to present the 408 Pierview Way Boutique Hotel. As the Historic Preservation Commission Secretary, I was excited to see a new owner come in, take an existing building in our downtown core area and repurpose it into a very nice visitor-serving commercial property once it gets up and running. The reason the project's in front of you this evening is due to the fact that there's doing some minor facade improvements, and the hotel use requires a conditional use permit. The minor facade and tenant improvements will be affected on 406 as well as 408 Pierview Way. 406 is currently what we refer to as firewater, and the applicant has moved forward in opening that up, making it more presentable, and after the long-term lease will eventually absorb that into the hotel operations. That's why it's in front of this body at this time. The synopsis for this would be for staff, the Historic Preservation Commission, as well as the Downtown Advisory Commission, to recommend that the CDC adopt a resolution approving the development plan, conditional use permit, and regular coastal permit for the establishment and operation of a 10-room boutique hotel and the minor facade tenant improvements that I previously spoke of. Given a little oversight of the location, you can see the fully developed downtown area off Pierview Way. Showing in the lower right, I have the image of the existing building post removal of the plaster and the adjacent 406 site. You can see it's fully developed in the area with 2 public parking lots. Due to overnight restrictions, the applicant will have to enter into a parking agreement in order to accommodate the overnight type guests that will be coming to the facility. With regards to the parking requirement, hotel usage in the downtown area, they do require 1.2 spaces per room. Therefore, a request for 12 spaces has been requested, and staff has been diligently working to enter into an agreement with city staff to acquire those spaces in order to see this repurposing of the building. The next photo I have is a circa 1900s photo, which really shows the history and the historical name, which was referred to as the Avon Hotel. Traffic issues back then, just had to worry about getting hit by a horse and buggy. So things have definitely changed since the early 1900s. And once again, I applaud them for bringing that old historical structure and repurposing it for us. Existing site photos, you can see the condition that the owner purchased it. It had been plastered over back in the 70s. Held several different commercial type businesses within the structure. Then the applicant came in and moved forward with some exterior removal of the plaster to bring it back to that original brick extent, and he invested a lot of time and money prior to an approval just bringing it back to the original historical context there. And the final picture shows what exists there today, and hopefully after this meeting they'll expeditiously move forward to get this under construction. The proposed elevations, we've provided those to you, maintaining the overall historical context of the brick three-story structure. They do have some newer improvements to the facade that they are applying for, as well as a rooftop deck and some patio areas for the residents or these tourists visiting and residing in the hotel. The other image I'm showing here is essentially the floor plans. You can see the bottom floor will be your check-in area and your visitor serving cafe, kind of an amenity, cooking facilities for the resident or the tourists that are visiting. And then you have the second floor and third floors, which will contain the 10 boutique rooms. In order to provide an additional amenity with great views down Pier View to the ocean, the applicant is proposing a rooftop deck with a small bar lounge area. Based on the size of the structure, it will be limited and probably be hard to get into, so look forward to seeing that come into fruition. This item was reviewed back in December by the Historic Preservation Commission. In a 3-0 vote, they recommended approval to move this forward. And then on December 13th, the Downtown Advisory Committee reviewed the proposal and in a 4-1 vote recommended approval to move this forward to this body. Conclusions and findings, it's consistent with the general plan, provides a balance of commercial uses that conform to the general plan, introduces a niche type visitor serving commercial establishment, and additional available goods and services in the downtown core area. So hopefully this will act as an additional catalyst to help all the development that's occurring. As the, I guess, manager of the downtown area and all the redevelopment that's going on, it's just amazing to see yet another hotel come in and provide additional catalyst and synergy to the area. Staff has reviewed, all divisions have reviewed this project, and the boutique hotel can be adequately served by the public utilities and services. And then staff reviewed it for the zoning ordinance compliance, and subject to the condition for a parking agreement, meets all the zoning code requirements for establishment. With that, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission confirm issuance of a Class 1 existing facilities exemption for CEQA and approve the development plan, conditional use permit, and regular coastal permit by adopting the attached resolution. And that concludes my presentation.
If the applicant wishes, they have time to present.
Mr. Aldrich will be right up.
I'm sorry, you can go ahead and start, please.
Yeah, I'm Tom Aldrich, and this is my architect, Joe Spear.
Hey guys, so we're really excited to present this project to you. So, from the beginning, I think the concept with this particular project was preserving history. So we wanted to take this old brick building that has great historical significance, built in 1888, and we wanted to bring it back to its original glory. So kind of from a design perspective, what we were attempting to do is, what we'd like to do is express the existing history. There's some really neat kind of old painted on signs on the side of the brick, and we were hoping to kind of clean those up and express those. Everything that we're adding would be a contemporary offset. So essentially we would be contrasting with the original history, not trying to copy it and mimic it with trying to make it look like the old history. So I think all in all, we're trying to clean it up and turn it into something that hopefully will be a center for the city. So thank you.
And yeah, just to add, this is according to Christy Hawthorne with the Historical Society. That's the oldest 3-story building in town. It was built in 1888. We plan on calling it the 1888 Hotel, which is also the year the city incorporated. So we're just trying to bring back as much historical aspect as we can, just like Joe brought up, and just preserve as much of it as possible, you know, the original brick and so forth. Thank you. And just happy to answer any questions.
Great. At this time, we'll move to the public right now.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, the public has the opportunity to speak on this specific item. If any of the members wish to speak on this item, they may come forward at this time. Mayor Weiss, I see none. Great.
Thank you. Well, I have to say it was such a pleasure to talk to the applicant and the vision of the family in terms of bringing back this very historic building and keeping the character of Oceanside. That was something that I really, really enjoyed that conversation. I applaud you for your commitment, for your family's commitment to Oceanside, and to having this vision, you know, buying that, and also the property next door, and having like a long-term version of having not just this building, but perhaps a restaurant next door someday. So I thank you very much for that, all of that, and I move adoption. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. The rooftop deck, is that going to be accessible for public, or is that just residents of the hotel? You're going to have to speak, because they can't see you nodding at home.
Yes, it'd be accessible to the public. Same with the bottom floor, some sort of cafe-like concept.
Okay, good, because I'm very supportive of this. I'm surprised we haven't got an architectural critic saying the design's a little dated. So anyway, thank you for your time and effort on this whole thing.
Yeah, we wanted the public to be able to enjoy the building as well, and just not the hotel guest.
Right, thanks.
Councilmember Sanchez. No? Okay, Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. The tour of the building was interesting. It had a lot of colors in the rooms, and the staircase is my only concern. I hope you're making a better staircase, because I was afraid that I was going to have to be life flighted off the roof. So,
quick comment on that. Yeah, no, it'll be a brand new staircase. It's completely illegal now, and we wouldn't be able to do that if we wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, and to add, one of the reasons we bought Firewater on top of it, try to improve their facade and kind of go with go with the boutique hotel next door, is by moving the stairs to the other side, we can then add balconies extending to the ocean view side. So those stairs will all go away. Stairs will be on the opposite side, elevator as well, so on the east side of the building.
The way I think to think about the architecture here is we're preserving the history, but everything is going to meet code. Everything is going to meet brand new codes according to 2018 standards.
Well, I'm reading a book online that comes on Oceanside News, Haunted Bones. It comes every Sunday, and this hotel reminds me of that, because they found a body in a furnace and whatever. Anyway, the hotel has some great history, and I think it's pretty exciting to get it down there.
Hopefully, we don't find the same thing.
No, you won't. You won't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Don't run off. So what happened to the 8-track tapes that I found upstairs?
You can keep those, I think.
Okay, thank you. So my real question is, what is the total resident overnight load that you're going to accommodate there? You're going to have X number of 10 rooms?
Yeah, it's 10 rooms total. You can go ahead.
Right, 10 rooms total. 2 of them will be large ADA rooms.
And is this going to appeal to families?
Correct.
Yeah. So you'll have multiple beds in all of these then?
Yeah, it'll be a mix. We want it to be affordable. Yeah, there'll be 2 suites. Outside of that, there's smaller rooms, some with balconies, some without balconies. So it'll kind of hit, multiple demographics.
So it'll have like 5 per floor?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, previously it was 10 per floor. Those were with bathrooms down the hall. So we're adding bathrooms to each room. So, we're half the size.
So I'm concerned about the rates. So are you going to have any $59 rooms? I'm just kidding.
No, they're not going to be that cheap.
So what will the price range be on this, you know, the entry level kind of rooms?
Sure. It'll be seasonal, obviously. Anywhere from mid 100s, 150 to 250, 300 is probably realistic.
Depending upon which floor they're on.
Correct. Suites, balconies, and so forth. Seasonal, summer, you know, would be a little higher than off-season weekdays.
So 150 to 3, something like that.
Yeah, and potentially even lower for, you know, depending weekday and February 7th, for example.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Here we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Mr. Clerk, can we go back to 16?
Yes, back to item number 16. Our next two speakers are Tim Broom and Victor Roy. Do you want to go?
You're up, Tim.
Yep.
All right, good evening, Council. Victor Roy, President of the Friends of Oceanside Parks and Recreation. I'm here on behalf of the Friends. I want to invite everybody to come out for Valentine's Week. We had Kathy earlier from Main Street presenting the flyer. There is an error on the flyer about the Ferris wheel. It says February 10 and 11. We actually are approved to operate the Ferris wheel starting on Friday, February 9. So please come out and enjoy the Ferris wheel rides, the bike ride that's going to happen on Saturday morning. And also, the most important thing from last week, Public Safety Week, we want to thank our Oceanside Police Department, as well as the firefighters and the lifeguards for being there and supporting that event. So thank you. Everybody bring your family and friends and enjoy Valentine's Week in Oceanside.
Honorable Council, and welcome our Mayor. My name is Tim Broom. I reside at 603 Seagaze. I live up in the east side, and I'm here tonight once again to address safety at the airport. Some changes have been made down at the airport since I was last here in November. Some good, some not so good. The good part is that many of the airport users are now following the voluntary noise abatement as outlined in the Notice to Airmen. Of course, as with any group of people, we're always going to have a couple knuckleheads here and there who are going to do whatever they want, regardless of what they're told. Again, neighbors in our neighborhood continue to take issue with your commercial parachute operation. We were recently made aware that one of the aircraft was purposely damaged with a gun. Even though this happened some time ago, the air operator still talks about it, which has caused us to take a more careful look. So apparently you have some other residents who are not very happy with that operation. And we're also aware that there's some other residents who do not live in the east side who have also complained about this operation. Reports of parachutists landing outside of their landing zones on Highway 76, one person in a tree, another person landing on the Marine base. Some complaints have been filed by my neighbors regarding the parachute aircraft flying low near homes. We used radar images in the past, as recommended by the airport, to aid in filing complaints as had been requested when I was here several years ago. The current parachute aircraft operator has had their radar now blocked so that neighbors would have a nearly impossible time filing complaints. And we see this akin to blocking police radar tracking a speeding car. No one in our neighborhood is able to come up with a reasonable explanation as to why the parachute aircraft operator would block their public radar data. The only logical explanation to this is that the business owner does not want his activities being given to you, the city, to the airport, or the FAA for follow-up. And maybe you, the City Council, would like to follow up on this with us. And I want to thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Tom Foley and Michael Odegaard.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tom Foley. I live in Murrieta. I'm here to speak a little bit about cannabis. I understand that we're moving forward here in the city. I'm very excited about that. I'm hopeful to start up a business, and my business in cannabis would be young plant production, primarily in tissue culture, and then growing on small plants. That is my goal and my company's goal. This production is typically done indoor, and that is to reduce pesticides, insects, any diseases that are problematic with the plants. We had an earlier speaker speaking about pesticides, and we're very concerned about using pesticides. The state has already approved certain chemicals. It does help greatly to reduce some of the insects when we grow young plants, and young plants are normally very small, under 12 inches tall. It does help to grow them indoors in an industrial building. In growing young plants like this, we would be selling them throughout California. So primarily, most of our products would not be residing and being sold to growers here in Oceanside. Our market, intended market, is the entire state of California, selling young plants of medicinal cannabis cultivars. So we're hopeful, and I know that the city is moving forward through the various departments to approve cannabis cultivation, and our hope is to be able to grow young plants indoors in the industrial areas, so that we can start up a business. My goal is to start up a business here. I'm a small business owner, and hopeful to have a business here and move here as well. Our business would not have any consumer, no public access. That's very important to us for a variety of reasons. I don't want people coming in to my place, the business. I need to keep people out and only have people that are working in our business to be coming in. So we'll follow the regulations in terms of security and access to the facilities. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And Mr. Odegaard, prior to you speaking, I just want to inform the City Council. Previously this week, Mr. Odegaard graciously emailed the City Council. Specifically, he emailed myself requesting to speak and have a PowerPoint presentation before coming forward. I incorrectly gave him guidance to come to the council meeting beforehand and submit the zip drive, and it was actually my fault for giving incorrect information because I didn't understand the policy that we have in existence. So I just wanted to apologize to Mr. Odegaard first and foremost for giving him incorrect information, because he did follow the recommendations I had provided, but I just wanted to let you know that. So you can go, Mr. Odegaard. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I mean, Zach, I appreciate that, because it says a lot about your character, and we love you here. So because of the fact that I am not able to use my PowerPoint that I had prepared, actually not just this time, but the last time I attempted to speak, I was just trying to follow up a one-year anniversary of what transpired after the October 2016 decision, where there was a 3-2 approval of the Vine Street Collection Project. Oh, excuse me. Welcome, Mayor. I'm glad to see you in person, and I look forward to an opportunity to speak to you in person directly. Thank you. It's really urgent at this point that we do something substantial to have a fair hearing on this project before we allow the project developer to proceed any further. He has spent a lot of money grading this land, but he does not have a legitimate majority of council support. Mr. Feller, you said that knowing the family somehow makes a difference. It's not knowing the family, it's working for the family. That's a big difference. You have a conflict of interest. And unfortunately, you have a very protective city attorney who tried to protect you from having to disclose that at the public meeting. Now, had you been a Christian person, you would have confessed exactly what your relationship was and trusted the goodwill of your council members to make that decision, because it's not the city attorney's decision, it's up to the council to determine whether or not you should speak. You had a conflict of interest, and you should have recused yourself, or at least you should have disclosed your interest. And because you didn't, now we're going to have to fix this problem. You're designing a neighborhood that has less amenities than a prison. That's not what we want in Oceanside. Please acknowledge the conflict. Please acknowledge that your vote was invalid. And let's now take it with truth from here, and let's figure out what's good for our neighborhood. Also, because I was not able to show my PowerPoint, I'd like everybody to please Google Stop VSC. Just Google Stop VSC. There's all the information there. Also, I encourage you to look up 10minutewalk.org. One more minute, please.
Mr. Odegaard, please wrap it up.
Thank you. Our codes are atrocious. Two important roles of planning: to make the outcome predictable for your investors, but also to create a community vision. And we have not been investing in that capacity in our planning department. So please, I think we have some good talent here, but I also see how they've been manipulated. And that's all I have to say for tonight. I'd like to give my full presentation at another session, but I'd also ask you please to not not issue any building permits until this is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further public on this item.
We'll go to 17.
And on item number 17, an element of that where the vote said results 3-0, the vote actually is 3-1. Sanchez was no, just for notation on that particular item.
Just normally I just title these, but one word of explanation. You've already voted on this, both introduction and adoption, but there was a noticing error with the newspaper, which is requiring us to do the readoption. And so the city clerk has corrected the incorrect vote that was on the agenda. And with that, I will title this. This is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Article 12 of the Downtown Zoning Ordinance to incorporate multifamily residential development by right within Subdistrict 13.
Move adoption.
So we could just clarify, Mr. Weiss was not on the council as mayor when this item was heard, but provided he has reviewed the public hearing testimony and the staff report, then he would be eligible to vote.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez no.
Before we adjourn, I just would like to take a moment to thank Deputy Mayor Lowry in his efforts to fill the role as the mayor over the last several months. It's been most difficult to carry on both roles, and I want to thank you for your efforts in doing that. And with that, we will adjourn to 3:30 on Wednesday, February 28th.